Um, I want to start off with the fact that you are such a celebrity in schools.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
I first read Wonder back when I was actually in ed school,
Mm,
and they taught us how to help kids with special needs through your book. So it's very, very cool to be here with you full circle.
thank you.
Um, And when I was in education and was teaching a lot, that book often came up in elementary and middle school classrooms. So it's very, very cool to
Yeah,
chat with
thank
you.
you.
That book has had so much love for it, just like starting from the beginning there. Um, how have you felt about the reception and the impact of it?
These are things that you never expect. I mean, they're
Yeah.
like, honestly, when it first was published, it was a little book in
Yeah.
the middle of the Penguin Random House catalog, and it wasn't one of their big books. They didn't pay me a lot for it. It was just one of those books that, frankly, because I was in book publishing, my biggest hope for it was that it would earn out my advance and come out in paperback the next year,
Yeah.
which is usually the usual trajectory of a moderately successful book. And that maybe some family and friends would read it. And then, it just was one of those books that I think it came out maybe at the right time, and it had the right cover and it had the right message. And it came at a time, there was a lot of dialogue that was starting to happen about bullying. And I'm proud to say that when I was writing about kindness, it wasn't in the zeitgeist. I was writing about it because I just
Yeah.
found, my older son had just finished fifth or sixth grade. And I was actually kind of astonished at the dearth of kindness among that age group. And I remember thinking, and even having conversations with parents. Kindness was something that my husband and I really kind of tried to drill into our kids in terms of like
Yeah.
remembering, have empathy and all of that. But what I was seeing was that it wasn't the priority necessarily for other parents when, and what happens at that age is, we tend to, as parents, we prioritize, homework and schoolwork and
Yeah.
how you did on a test and all of that. But we stopped talking about kindness, even though when our kids were little, we were always reminding them to say please and thank you and be nice, and play nice and all of that. By the time kids get into middle school, it just kind of falls off the wayside. So I really wanted to write a book in which I explore those themes and hopefully inspire kindness in other kids. So yeah, I had these ambitions for it, but of course, you can never sort of imagine that, a couple of years later, it's going to become a movie starring Julia Roberts, or that it's going to hit the bestseller list. And it's been on the bestseller list since it was published, which was in 2012. It's
Yeah.
like you could never foresee that. That's
One of
great.
those classic kids books now that I think kids are going to look back in 10 or 12 years and be like, that completely changed my life.
I I hope so. I will say that I was asked to do the keynote to one of the keynote speeches at a college up in Maine a couple of years ago, and I realized that these 21-year-olds were the Wonder generation.
Oh,
They
wow.
were the kids who, at the age of 10 or 11, were the first readers of Wonder.
Yeah.
And so I made that part of my speech because it was really exciting to be able to talk to these kids who grew up with this book that really meant so much to them. And it was not, it's what you said. I mean, like, I might not be a big deal to my own, age group or whatever, but to, like, young people, RJ Palacio means something. So that was kind of cool.
Um, this is not your first rodeo for an adaptation at
Yeah.
all. And in fact, you wrote a couple more books set in the Wonder universe to kind of carry those ideas of kindness on. Um, how was it being adapted this time around? It's Whitebird is a Holocaust story. It's a story of redemption. It's a little bit darker, but doesn't necessarily like talk down to kids or even try to simplify anything either, which is which are two very distinct hard things to do at the same time.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, Wonder is a little bit of a, like, it's literally a lighter adaptation, with the lenses Stephen Chbosky used. And then you have this one. So talk to me about doing this again with Whitebird.
Yeah. Well, it's been an extraordinary experience. I mean, I thought I was lucky the first time around with the team that I got. And the first time around, I also had less say. It was my first book. It was my first trip to the rodeo. But this time around, I felt like I sort of had footing, and I had more to basically impart. And also the book was a graphic novel, which I drew.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, it served as a little bit of a storyboard. I think it was easier for the people who greenlit the movie to envision it because they had this storyboard of basically a storyboard and a script. Having said that, then we had this amazing, script by Mark Bomberg, who just kind of did this wonderful adaptation. And then Mark Forster brought this movie to life in a way that, I mean, I was so pleased. Every day I'd get the dailies and I would see the care with which it was, the cinematography is exquisite, the lighting, the production design. Forget the acting. That's what but the acting by the young people. I mean, we can expect great acting from Gillian Anderson, from Helen Mirren, but from these young people, oh my goodness, it was extraordinary. Just everything about it. It surpassed my expectations, my ability to dream. And, I have a huge ability to dream. So this surpassed it. It was incredible. Really an impeccable production.
So Wonder came out, or the film came out in 2017. Whitebird, the graphic novel, comes out 2 years later and then is optioned by Lionsgate around that same time. When you are drawing Grandmere, is there any part of you that's like, it would be great if Helen Mirren could play this part? Or do you have any idea?
I did not think that far ahead.
Okay.
I might have made her look a little bit more like Helen Mirren. I actually based it. I have a friend named Lisa who is not an older woman, but she was exactly what I was thinking of when I was thinking of Grandmere. So I just aged her. But she was who I was thinking of, and she would sit for me. And she was my photo reference. Just like my younger son was my photo reference for scenes with Julian. And my husband was because you need a lot of reference and you have to kind of draw from life. But no, I not until we started casting the movie. And then someone said, well, there's Helen Mirren is interested, and was like, oh, yes, oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
So that was extraordinary.
For some kids, this is going to be their first kind of World War II film, their first Holocaust film, which I think, I'm a film person. That is such a big responsibility in a way, I think, because, this is the way kids get exposure to that time period. What do you hope kids take away from Whitebird, in addition to the idea that it's always right to be kind?
Well, I think it's really important that kids get exposed in an age-appropriate way to those difficult lessons from history, despite the fact that they are so difficult. I mean, it's hard for a grown-up to wrap one's head around genocide and 6 million and all of that happened. And yet, if we don't, just like I write in the book, if we don't learn from the mistakes of the past, we are doomed to repeat them. More than anything, I wanted kids to be able to make the connection between, also to identify with Sarah, who starts the book as an ordinary girl, just kind of like Augie. Augie is an ordinary boy who just looks different. Sarah is in every way an ordinary girl growing up in France, very happy. And then we watch her as she slowly and actually with increasing speed gets othered simply by virtue of the fact that she's Jewish. She gets othered. She starts hearing, scapegoating. I mean, these things all happened, and they happened in a relatively short amount of time. And I thought it was really important for kids to see that, to see the speed with which that happens, how Sarah's ordinary life unravels based on hate speech, based on prejudice, based on things that actually happened. And again, it's this whole business of book bans and everything that's going on now, this idea that we can somehow make kids think things or believe things or indoctrinate them by exposing them to it's crazy. I think as educators and as parents, the best we could hope, the most we can hope, is to teach our children to think for themselves, to be critical thinkers, so that they can then take those lessons from the past that they've been exposed to, so that they can hear what's going on and judge for themselves what seems right, what seems wrong. Because, if they read a story about how this ordinary girl was suddenly being victimized in her own country, suddenly felt like she was no longer welcome in her own country, then maybe they'll hear it when they, if they hear a soundbite on TV, when they watch the news or whatever, they can kind of understand, well, this doesn't seem right to me. I don't really, that's what happened to Sarah. That's what happened to Jews in the in the late 1930s in France. And I don't think that seems right. Let's not let it happen again. So basically the movie, I think, is coming out at this perfect time because it's,
I was going to say, yeah,
for people to see one another, to treat each other with dignity and respect, to understand and pay tribute to that shared humanity that we all have, which I really believe in. And now more than ever, I think it's that idea of seeing that commonality, that humanity that we all share. That's absolutely important, because the world, as we know, is on fire.
Yes.
And we're raising children, this next generation, in this time of turmoil. And I think it's really, really important for them to understand that the key really is to find some kind of tenderness for one another again, to remember that we're human beings. And that's what this movie is all about. It's that, it's people taking care of other people and standing up for what they believe in. And that's my hope for this movie.
Well, I bet many kids will watch it and definitely feel that way.
Hope so.
RJ, thank you so much for sitting with me.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It was wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.